huge opportunity to really do some great work that will be of benefit to the housing community and the legislative community around the state. And so let's dive right in. The first thing I think we wanted to raise is we decided somewhat arbitrarily to not do an availability poll and just go ahead and schedule 3 meetings in March at this time frame. The next one being March 17th, and the next being March 31st, which was to get 3 meetings in before the full commission meeting on April 4. So just let me ask, does anyone have extreme heartburn about that as a schedule? As we get into late March, we'll figure out whether we need to keep meeting 3 times a month, but we thought it was important to kind of get some quality time in the month of March to get going. So any huge objections to meeting on the 17th and the 31st at this time frame? And I see Emily Mcavoy has her hand up.
I believe that was an accident. I'm sorry, I was driving. I just got in. I'm going to transition to my computer. Thank you, though. I apologize.
Okay. All right. I don't
The goal
see
of that,
any-
Mr. Chair, right? The goal of that is to make sure it stays at 1 hour. We have those 3 meetings, but having time controlled, and so we're not monopolizing everyone's time, but also acting quickly so we can get the advice back to municipalities who are looking for our insight.
Right. Okay. If that's okay, thank you for that. The next idea that we wanted to propose is and we don't have to decide this today, but just we thought that a 3-hour or so in-person meeting in the mid-April, probably either in New Haven or Hartford, because that's most convenient and most likely to yield a room. We just from my own experience of serving on commissions like this, it's good to at least early in the process get everyone together in person. Obviously, if say people we'll try to make a hybrid option available, but it would be good to get people together in person. And we would put together an agenda where we would hear from a couple of outside speakers. I'm thinking, for example, of people who regularly work with municipalities on their plans of conservation and development. Somebody who could tell us a little bit about facilitating the municipal process, things that we should look for so we don't make recommendations that are difficult for towns to implement. So let me just throw that idea out. So it would probably be either April 9th or 16th, 3 hours on a Saturday morning. And that would not become the norm. That would probably just be a one-time 3-hour event to just get us together. So any thoughts, comments, concerns about doing that? Okay. Matt? Yeah, you're muted, Matt.
Clicked it twice. I'd be unavailable on the 9th.
Okay. All right. Although if it's the 9th and 16th, anyone else have a blackout date? Oh, if your blackout date is the 9th, raise your hand either on the screen or. Okay. And then what about the 16th as a
I
bad
just
day?
wanted to flag that that's Easter weekend and Passover, so that may be a conflict for folks.
Yeah,
I'll
that's a
just
pretty
add-
big one. I don't know how I didn't flag that one early.
And I'll
I'm
just,
gonna have a family problem if
I think most people will that weekend.
and I would add that
Right.
I'm generally unavailable on Saturdays because it's the Jewish Sabbath, and so I don't travel or attend meetings on those days.
Okay. Matt, if I can ask, can you do a virtual meeting on the Sabbath?
No, I could do
No.
Sundays or other days of the week, but I don't, Zoom or other
Okay.
things on Saturdays.
Okay. you're
Until
right.
later in the right. If it was an evening meeting on a Saturday, that would be more feasible.
Yeah, no, we're not meeting Saturday night, that's for sure. Okay, all right. All right, those are good concerns. Representative Lamar, maybe we should take that back and figure out with staff what would work, and maybe like a Friday morning or something like that. All right. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, we'll continue with that. All right. Last administrative detail is that you have the invitation to this that would provide you with a group email And we obviously encourage everybody to, as we go through the process, to share, information, thoughts, comments for the good of the committee as we go through. So, we'll hopefully keep that to a manageable load of email communications, but that tool is there for you. And if for any reason anyone is not getting emails, or if I should suppose, check your email, make sure it's correct. If you're on the call, I assume you got the agenda and that you have the correct email for you. Okay, at this point, what we want to do is do some, have everybody introduce themselves. There are 25 or so of us, so I'm going to start with the commission members, and we're just going to ask you to please try to keep it less than a minute. Just tell us, who you are, where you're sitting, and what your position is, and if you want to say, what resource or perspective you bring to the process, that would be great. Rep. Lamar, you want to start off?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Hauser. I am the legislature's co-chair of the Transportation Committee. I previously served as the chair of the Planning and Development Committee and the Fair Housing Workforce Task Force. I was involved with the early adoption of the Affordable Housing Plan legislation that was mainly shepherded by Senator Gail Schlossberg, and I'm really interested to see what we can do to help communities achieve their articulated goal, which was developing these robust plans that will help yield a positive economic and housing development within their communities. I know a number of communities are struggling with that right now, and I want to be the resource to them, as well as look at any additional issues that we need to help communities who are really trying in earnest to develop affordable housing across their community.
Very good. Betsy Guerra, you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. Betsy Guerra, Executive Director of the Connecticut Council of Small Towns, and we've been working with our municipalities to encourage them to move ahead with adopting the affordable housing plans. I know we've had webinars with Melissa Kaplan-Macy and other organizations to support that effort. So I'm hopeful that we're going to see some very robust, interesting plans, because I've heard a lot that my towns are doing. So I'm trying to get a handle on kind of where they are in that process.
Very good. Thank you. Lamont Daniels, you're, I believe, the other commission member. How are you?
Yes, good. How are you? Lamont Daniels, City of Norwalk. I am the Chief of Community Services. I too am working with our housing plan, but I think also the perspective I bring is Norwalk has a human relations and fair rent department, which is a little bit different compared to other municipalities where tenants are able to, put forth the complaint around, their rent, and we have a commission that has binding authority that can rule whether or not the rent is increased with investigation stuff. So as you can imagine, my office is very, 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 very busy right now, but also from the larger perspective, just bringing that perspective of what we're doing here in Norwalk, and then my role here as Chief of Community Services, which is kind of the social service, human service, health department. Most people refer to, but here in Norwalk, we call it community services.
Very good. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to the list with the email list that we got from the staff. So Jim Brinton, I don't see him on the call. Okay. Jenny Price from Seymour. I don't see her either. Antonia Edwards. No. Okay. Shirley Wang. All right. Michael Hernandez, I see you.
Yep. Hey, everybody. It's Mike Hernandez, student at the University of Connecticut, and also part of the Stanford Affordable Housing Committee. And I do a lot of research on this kind of thing, so I hope to bring some new perspectives, and looking forward to this work.
Thank you, Michael. Melissa, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Melissa Kaplan-Macy, Vice President for State Programs and Connecticut Director with the Regional Plan Association. And as most folks know, I think worked on the guidebook for creating affordable housing plans with the Department of Housing and with other folks on this call, Betsy and Finn and others. So I'm really happy to be at this table today.
Great. And speaking of usual suspects, hello, Mr. Porth. How are you?
How you doing, Tim? Hi, everybody. Thanks for letting me be part of this. I really appreciate it. I work for CCM now as special projects coordinator, where one of my focuses is work with our cities and towns on racial equity, promoting racial equity. Donna Hamsey, who's part of our policy staff, is on the commission, and I expect to work pretty closely with her to coordinate what I'm doing here. I guess I'm excited too, Tim, about this opportunity, and I hope that some previous experience I've had at the Capital Region Council of Governments, which was a while ago, but still I think relevant, and also more recently working on our ALICE reports at United Way, people who work hard and still struggle to make ends meet, especially in the area of housing. I hope that that experience can help in this discussion. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Rick. Kathleen Randall, I don't see her.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
My name's coming up as the iPad too. So
there we go.
yeah, like a spaceship. So yeah, I'm Kathy Randall. I'm a resident of Avon. I was born in Stamford and I spent a lot of time in Boston. I worked for Fleet Bank, which is now Bank of America. I had a 20-year career there in commercial real estate. I guess I'm here purely as a resident. I ran the national real estate group for Fleet, and incorporated in that was the LAHTC, which was the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Group. So I did a lot of lending, both conventional types, retail, malls. I financed the Fleet Center in Boston, a lot of office parks, a lot of assisted living on a national basis. And I did get involved as I say, sort of a subset with the low income housing tax credit deals. I also lent to the syndicators, and we also had tax credits for our own account. And I ran the group of asset managers that actually managed the physical real estate. I was on the executive board of the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, as well as the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks, which is the lobbying group for the real estate developers. So I'm really here because I'm interested in the topic, and perhaps some of my expertise might be relevant.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy. David Rathbun is not a name I see. Okay. Claudette Kidd, I see. Hi, Claudette.
Good afternoon. My name's Claudette Kidd. I live in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm a member of the community and also on New Haven Housing Commission. I'm mainly here because I have lived experience, especially being homeless and getting myself out of that situation by advocacy. I still do advocacy now with a group called Mothers and Others for Justice under Christian Community Action. I work very closely with Shansia. She's on this meeting also, part of the Housing Commission, and just fighting for more affordable housing at a rate where people can afford it for real, and better living conditions and more stock. That's just part of it. It's a long history of stuff, so I'll just keep it short. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Claudette. Emily Mcavoy, I see you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi there, my name is Emily Mcavoy. I'm a resident of Middletown. I'm a community organizer. I currently work for our Youth Services Bureau here in town in a organizing and convening role. I'm also a senior undergraduate at Wesleyan University, and because of that, my experience going there, I'm very passionate about the ways that we could use our universities, which are big, hubs of wealth and capital, to invest in communities and things like affordable housing more. And so, interested in seeing how something like that could be pursued legislatively. They're doing that at Smith College right now in Massachusetts. They have a fund for that, so passionate about that kind of stuff. Thank you for having me.
Great. My motto is always, you can never have enough Wesleyan graduates. That would be me. Thank you. Glad to have you, Emily. Shansia Jarrett, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shansia Jarrett, and I work with the Affordable Housing Commission in New Haven out of Economic Development Corporation. And I look forward to attending this meeting to know what other affordable housing entities in your diverse backgrounds are currently collaborating on. And I was sent here by Legislative Services.
Very good. Thank you. Matt Danzer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Matt Danzer. I am an attorney in Stamford, focusing on primarily criminal defense and white collar investigations. And my primary affiliations are on the steering committee of the Norwalk Immigration Coalition. So I've had many run-ins with Lamond over the past couple of years. And I also did some work with the Fairfield Racial Equity and Justice Task Force. And I'm also on the board of an organization that runs addiction treatment centers, all communities that have an interest in affordable housing. And so I'm hoping to keep those voices and those perspectives in mind as we do our work here.
Very good. Well, hopefully none of us need you professionally during the next couple of months. Great. Mr. Mandel, how are you today?
I'm fine. Good to see you, Tim. I'm Matthew Mandel. I am from Westport, Connecticut. I am on the representative town meeting and chair their planning and zoning committee. I'm also the executive director of the Westport Western Chamber of Commerce. In the early 2000s, I introduced the concept of inclusionary zoning to Westport, and we've passed legislation that creates any multifamily housing must be 20% affordable within that. And so I'm sort of here as an advocate for that type of legislation, as well as to, have the small town perspective in creating affordable housing, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Matt. Michelle O'Connor.
Hey, Michelle O'Connor, New Fairfield resident, about 35 years, and recently semi-retired from finance and tech, which leaves me some time that I'd like to use for things like this. And my state rep, Pat Callahan, mentioned that you could use folks, and I found this extremely interesting.
Very good. Michelle, I'm going to ask you a funny question. Are you a new Fairfield resident or a new Fairfield resident?
My husband's cracking up.
You live in Fairfield?
No, I live in New Fairfield.
New Fair. Oh, okay. You're
Yes,
a new
that comes
Fairfield.
up a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Michael Tradukowitz.
Hi, I'm Michael Tradukowitz, and I'm from Cromwell, Connecticut. I've been there for about 20 years, originally from New Britain. I've been working in New Haven for several years. I have an office down here, and I do consulting, and I do anti-racism training. I just got out of training, and I also I'm involved with Witnesses to Hunger. It's an advocacy group in New Haven, Connecticut, and looking at poverty and food insecurity. And I feel like housing is probably the root of poverty and food insecurity. So I'm very interested in housing, improving housing. I think it'll improve a lot of other downstream issues. I do have some lived experience growing up in New Britain in the housing projects and experiencing food insecurity. And then I also owned an engineering firm for 20 years, and I've worked for about half the municipalities in Connecticut, so I'm familiar with the municipal government and how things happen. And I've also, as an engineering firm, did a lot of work with HUD and CHA also. So I think I could bring a lot of my skills to the table. I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Fionnuala. Hi.
Oh, you're so close, Tim. Fanula. Most people call me Finn. I'm the director of operations for the Connecticut Fair Housing Center, and I just left a housing committee session with Representative Lamar. Although I have to say, I don't think I brought the same passion that you did, Rep. Lamar, to my testimony. But I'm here in the capacity of having thought about land use and zoning for over a decade. I had the unfortunate/fortunate experience of reading 169 municipal zoning regs in 2011 and analyzing them for exclusionary zoning variables, and then recently did a comparative analysis using Desegregate Connecticut's zoning atlas to learn that only 3 towns made changes to their affordable housing plans in the form of IHCs. I also helped Melissa Kaplan-Macy work on the guidance for how to create affordable housing plans. And in similar vein, and I'll share this, I kind of spent most of the day today reading through the 26 plans that were available under 830J, and I made a spreadsheet of what the goals are, and so I'll happily share that with the group so we can kind of see what's going on in the current landscape. I like data. Maybe
Did you already testify at the housing committee?
I did, but unfortunately I followed Anika and there's no following Anika.
Okay, very good. Last but not least, Bruce Winchin, how are you?
I hope that unmuted.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Bruce Wickson from the Office of Policy and Management, and I'm in the program that does the State Plan of Conservation and Development. We're involved with the Connecticut Environmental Policy Act reviews and so on. More directly, I was involved in housing as a board member of a nonprofit here in Hartford for a number of years that did affordable housing development and management. So here I am. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Bruce, while I have you on, before you go back to mute, OPM, this is an important question for this committee. OPM is supposed to be receiving and posting the municipal affordable housing plans as they're received. Somebody told me they're been received but not posted. Is there an update to that?
I am not involved in that. I'll ask Dan Morley, my boss, who is the one receiving those, and I'll see what happened, and I can bring that to the next meeting.
Okay, very good. And so one part of our charge is to talk about, give guidance in our report about the state plan of conservation and development, what its limits and incentives are. I assume there's somebody, maybe Dan or somebody else, that could come and talk to the group about what's in this state POCD.
I can talk about what's in it.
Okay.
And as you may know, there is a review of it ongoing from more than just the housing perspective right now.
Right.
So the plan could be a very different plan come the end of, or that the plan's future could be very different by the end of the legislative session.
Right. Okay, good. Yeah, we have the 2018 to 2023 plan, which is still in draft in 2022. one of the great little tweaks of state law. Okay.
Yeah.
And I should introduce myself. I'm Tim Hollister. I am a land use attorney. My firm is Hinckley, Allen and Snyder in Hartford office, and my affordable housing lineage goes back to assisting the original Blue Ribbon Commission in 1989 as a sort of a scrivener to then Professor Terry Tondreau, who was a co-chair of the original commission. And then I was on the 1999 commission, and I guess informally, or I have taken on the role over the years of trying to keep the housing and legislative communities updated on 830G developments, which I do every couple of years, including yesterday when I was asked to answer how many housing units have been produced under 830G. And that's a complicated topic, which we can maybe go over another time, but I've sort of tried to keep a hand in over that time what's happening with 830G. Okay. Well, I was excited before we started, and I'm even more excited with just a huge display of expertise and interest and passion. And Roland, I think we're in the right place. Representative Lamar, unless you have something you want to chime in with, I was going to sort of move on to a discussion of what our task is.
I just want to say it's not that frequent that we can be in a space where you have experts in one area, experts in another, folks with lived experience, people who are coming at this from so many different perspectives, but share the same interest. And I think that's a really exciting thing for this working group to be focused on, is the opportunity we have to speak, hopefully with one voice, about what our recommendations are and how our communities can grow productively. And it would be a voice that is informed by so many parts of Connecticut with so many different experiences. And I'm excited for that. And I hope everyone else is. And I hope, that there's a tendency sometimes, and Tim, you and I are going to have to be effective arbiters of that, for people to not feel that their voice is as valued as maybe state representatives or an attorney or someone with more experience than them. And I want, as we move forward, to make sure everyone's aware that their voice counts fully and equally here. And like, as we talk about what this commission and work group should consider and study, that everyone feels comfortable and confident making sure their voice is heard in this. And I'm going to do my best to make sure that people who aren't actively speaking up or actively lending their voice, I'll end up calling you on the side to make sure that your opinion is heard, because it would be a real disservice to our working group and to the commission as a whole if people didn't feel comfortable talking. And I know it's hard to do that for people that may not be as comfortable or confident in the setting. Where if we were in person, you'd feel more comfortable walking up to somebody. In Zoom, it's harder to do that. We've recognized that in the legislative process this year. So don't be surprised if you don't speak up at a meeting, if I call you on the side to just get a window into your thoughts and encourage you to speak out next time. With that, Mr. Hollister, I think you should move over to what our agenda says, what our expectations are, and how we plan to proceed.
Great. So I thought we'd just take a couple of minutes and review as specifically as we can what our assigned task is, noting that this is a law that was passed by the state legislature last year that set up this commission, and we are one of the 5 working groups that was specifically called out. So I would summarize our task as follows. We are to produce a written guidance document for, I will say, municipal officials, which, maybe more in the municipal officials who deal with the land use side, but I think generally for municipal officials. And our goal, at least on paper, is by the end of this year, which probably means that we should have a pretty robust draft in probably the September-October timeframe. So we have time to discuss it and finalize it and then present it, December being the last meeting scheduled of the full commission. So we certainly want to make that deadline. But we're to give guidance about these affordable housing plans that towns are writing as we speak. You may recall me commenting on this in the first meeting. I sort of presented it in the first call as a problem that we're giving guidance while the plans are being drafted, although I was told today that out of 169 towns, only 26 have finished. So maybe they're waiting for us. That'd be an interesting problem to have. But the more I thought about it, it's not really a problem, because what the guidance that we're going to give, will give towns that for whatever reason we think didn't do quite the job they should have in the first round to maybe go back and take a second look. And certainly those that don't get their work done on time can use our guidance to expedite. But beyond after 2022, our guidance hopefully will have a role in shaping the revisions and rethinking and improvements of these affordable housing plans. So actually, I come to the conclusion there really isn't a timing problem. We're just going to do what we're going to do. We're going to put great guidance document out there, and that will be, we will have achieved our mission, and it will pay dividends. If you look at the enabling legislation, we have 4 what I'll call statewide documents or sources that we have to look at. Number 1 is 830G, the Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals Act. Number 2 is what's called the Zoning Enabling Act, which is General Statutes 8-2, which is the general power that the legislature has given to cities and towns to adopt zoning regulations. That's much broader than 830G. And so we have 830G and the Zoning Enabling Act. And then as I was just saying with Bruce Witchen, we have the State Plan of Conservation and Development, which is a statewide plan adopted by the legislature that has broad goals for many areas, including housing, but also the environment and infrastructure and all the other things, physical things that go into land use and development. And then finally, we have the State Department of Housing's what's called the Consolidated Plan, which is also a very broadly based plan, but in general, it's intended to guide the use of state money invested in creation or rehabilitation or otherwise encouraging the development of housing. So we're going to look at we're going to have to understand and understand the guidance for our task that is in each one of those 4 documents, which is why when I talked about a sort of starting off early sometime with a 3-hour meeting and bringing in speakers, it would be to get us all on the same page with a basic understanding of those 4 documents. So that's my summary of our task. And let me stop there and just ask, do you have any questions, comments, concerns about that part of our task? Yeah, Matt?
What was the 4th document again?
The Department of Housing's consolidated plan, which among other things is what they use to allocate low-income housing tax credits. And so you got 830G, 8.2, the Zoning Enabling Act, the State Plan of Conservation and Development, and the Department of Housing's consolidated plan, also known as the CON plan. So those are the 4. Those are the documents that are referenced in our charge.
Can staff send us links to those 4 if possible?
Sure, I will make sure that happens. Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
Tim, it's Kathy Randall. Could you just confirm if the completion date is, I guess, somewhere between October and December, and you said it's supposed to be guidance to help the people who are writing the plans now, but I understand it's also going to be used for the future. So do you think it's really going to be more beneficial, going forward into 2023? Or, is our task really more to try to help people immediately? I didn't really get what the priority is there.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kathy.
Okay.
I guess for my own part, I'm not sure I envision us working one-on-one with towns individually. We are creating a guidance document, but my surmise is that, there's 169 towns. Is it likely that, a very high percentage of them are going to get their plans done by June 2022? Probably not. So hopefully, at least when we have a good draft and our final draft in the fall of 2022 out, I think that's where it will start getting some traction. But I do think that once there's an initial round of plans filed with OPM as required by the statute, and our guidance documents hits the street, there's going to be a comparison.
Right.
I think some towns will say, oh, okay, look at this guidance document. Maybe we should go back and revisit some of what we did. Now, just to segue to what Fianola was talking about, she glutton for punishment reading 169 towns regulations, but it sounds like at least she and I, maybe others of you, have looked at the 26 plans that are already on file. I read all of them over the last 7 days. There are some that are very good. There are some that are just really destined to gather dust and not do anything. And so, we're not going to call anybody out, but I think, we have some work to do and some opportunities to really give some good guidance on the difference between what's something that's going to facilitate housing production and what's going to not move the ball forward. I don't know, Fianola, since you read the plans, did you have an impression from, good, bad, and different in the middle?
Yeah, I think they ran the gamut. And then there was some that I thought did really great research, but then their recommendations weren't that great. And then there was some that had strong recommendations, but didn't have the research to back it up, right? So they were kind of all over the map. And then there's at least a couple with a couple of fair housing issues. So
Right. Okay. Yeah, Michael.
Hi, I see online in the Connecticut portal, there's a document called the Planning for Affordability in Connecticut, Affordable Housing Plan and Process Guidebook. So where does that document relate to what we're doing?
I'm sorry, where did you find that? Is that the Desegregate Connecticut document?
No, it's on the Connecticut portal. It was put together by a legislative panel similar to ourselves. So
yeah, could you circulate that? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
what that is.
Let me. It's on another computer, so let me copy it.
Tim, I could give some insight on that if that's helpful, since I wrote it mostly with other partners.
Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was, the Department of Housing recognized that the legislation that the 830J didn't provide any real guidance to the towns as to what to do. There was, this requirement to create a plan, but there wasn't anything about like how to do that or what should be in it. And, we're very clear in the guidebook that it's not that the guidebook says this is what you must do, because it's not a mandate, but it was just an attempt to provide guidance to towns so that they would have a better sense of how to go about creating a plan and then what should be in the plan. So, RPA, myself, kind of leading that effort together, like I said earlier, with folks like Betsy and Finn and others, spend a good amount of time working with Department of Housing to put out. So that's a guidance document as well. So that that's what that is.
And what year was that, Melissa?
I think we published that last spring, if I remember correctly. There should be a date on it. It's all blending together with 2020 and 2021, but I feel like we finished it maybe towards the end of the year in 2020. I don't really, it's fairly recent. I'll go look now at the date on it, and I should know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
December 2020 is the published date.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That might
Sure.
be a very important document. And I think Desegregate Connecticut has, I know they published a guidebook for commissioners about creating housing, and I'll track that down.
I'll put a few links in the chat. I can grab those pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. So we have about 20 minutes left. For our next meeting, I'm gonna throw myself under the bus. I would be happy to lead a what I'll call a primer on 830G and the housing aspects of 8-2, 15 minutes or so, if that would be helpful. Just I've actually been asked by the folks at Yale Law School to give a similar thing to the Yale Law students in the housing clinic the day after our next meeting. So I'll have that material ready. So if you think that would be helpful, I'd be happy to do that. And then now I'm just thinking through here. Melissa, do you want to maybe do a short presentation on the guidance document that you just talked about? That sounds like that would be very valuable.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I'm just trying to drop it in the chat. It might be the settings in the Zoom, but I can't actually see everyone. I only see the hosts in there. So I don't know if you can update that.
Okay, but from the invitation to this meeting, you have the group email list.
I do, yeah. And or I can just send it to you, Tim, if you want to circulate it, or to your Representative Lamar. But yeah, I'm also very happy to provide a presentation on the guidebook. Okay, good. All right, so that's two things we can do at the next meeting. All right, so let me open it up. What would you be anyone's suggestions for what we might do in our next meeting or our next two meetings? Do you have a preference, an insight, goal? Any ideas on how we should structure our? Where did Fiona? Do you think it would be worthwhile for people to read through the plans on file? I know it's a lot of. It's about 250 pages.
Yeah,
although there's a lot of pictures. That's the good news.
Tim, I was going to actually suggest, I can circulate, they're really notes and they use some acronyms, so I'll try to clean those up, and I'm happy to circulate those. And I was also going to suggest that the guidebook that Melissa drafted puts a lot of this stuff into language folks who aren't policy wonks can understand. So I would actually think that's a better place to spend some time. And then my other thought, I want to kind of lift up the work that the Fairfield County Center for Housing Opportunity is doing, because I know that there was a call for some speakers, and they've done some decent work around thinking about narrative change, which I'm not actually seeing in many of these affordable housing plans, which is a decent avenue into towns that are really not interested at all in developing affordable housing. And there's definitely a carrot and stick model. And if you asked me 10 years ago, did I want to beg primarily white communities to build affordable housing, I would have said no. But I think in this space, it's appropriate since they're developing plans. I think if we investigated kind of what narrative change work means and can do, that could be an interesting avenue as well.
Okay, that's a very good idea. As I mentioned earlier, I think I do think we should spend a little time learning about learning from someone who does a lot of municipal plan writing. I think a lot of you know Glenn Chalder, just somebody I've known for a long time. He's written many of the plans. Would throw that out as a name, as somebody who might come talk to us about, you know, just the municipal process of adopting a land use plan. Does anybody have a different idea, or otherwise I'll just, Matt?
No, Glenn's real good. He's done 2 town plans for us, and I know him well.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, no, he's the man. Okay, I will reach out to him and see if I can get him on our agenda. Okay.
Tim, Betsy's had her hand raised for a little bit. I want to make sure we don't miss her.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Representative. Yeah, just I did want to point out that the statute requiring the affordable housing plans is very bare bones. It doesn't provide a lot of direction. So I'm not surprised that the plans are very different in how they approach this. I don't know, and I have to go through the plans myself because I haven't had a chance to do that. But I do know that many municipalities have developed a very robust process, including designating an affordable housing committee, engaging residents, performing surveys and so forth. So I don't know if those are captured in the plan, but I do think it would be helpful to identify some of those towns and possibly invite them to speak about their process, because I think it can be even more important than the plan is engaging people in your community about how to approach affordable housing and get them to understand the need and how they can assist in meeting those needs. And also, I do know that at least 2 of the regional councils of government have been working with their municipalities on regional affordable housing plans. And I think it would be helpful to hear from 1 or 2 of those COGs to find out kind of what they're looking at and how they're approaching it as well. So I do know the South Central Connecticut Regional Council of Government and River COG have both done regional plans. I'm not sure about the others, but I can certainly find out.
Okay, that's a great suggestion, Betsy. Maybe you and I can work together offline, and we'll just line up some speakers for either the 17th or the 31st. So I'll be back to you on that.
Great, thank you.
Good. Okay. I think that's everything that was on the agenda for today. So we still have a couple minutes left. If anybody wants to, or I'm anxious to get back to the housing committee, but if there are other topics that people would like to bring up as suggestions for our process, I would say the floor is open.
Hey Tim, it's Rick Porth. Real quick. This discussion is again exciting, and I think we can help a lot with the kind of guidance folks are talking about. Is it within our mission to also think about how to reframe the whole discussion and reframe the way most people in Connecticut think about housing generally and affordable and workforce housing? Can we spend some time trying to help people understand the bigger picture when it comes to this topic?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. And I think that's sort of what Betsy was just alluding to when she talked about some of the towns having their process. How do you get people to buy into the need and the process, and and the balance? I mean, I totally get that. Particularly some of the smaller towns, they don't have professional staff. They don't have money to set up a study committee, hire a consultant, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly one thing we have to be cognizant of in our recommendations is they have to work for rural, suburban, urban, and affluent and not affluent and everything in between. Yeah, which is why I think it's great that Betsy's here to give us the cost perspective. And Matt Mandel was certainly an expert on Fairfield County, and anyway, I think on this group we have great representation of across the board, and we think we absolutely need to do that. So I'm going to ask you to keep reminding us to do that as we go forward.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, and Richard, I would just add, again, that's what I meant at the beginning. It'd be almost an embarrassment if we didn't take advantage of the incredible diversity of opinions that we're going to have and experiences that we have. We have a prescribed deliverable. But shame on us if we don't step outside of that a little bit to make sure we recognize that there are opportunities for us to provide additional advice or recommendations, or if we're receiving a presentation or receiving information and we can step in and go back to the commission or to the legislature more broadly and say, hey, we identified during our process 4 other things that we need to take seriously. And here are our recommendations. In addition to our deliverables, here are our recommendations on 4 other things. I'm excited by that. I think when you sign up to dedicate this much time to something, you want to know that you can make substantive change and make substantive recommendations, and we've got to be open to that. I think even if it's outside our very narrow prescription.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so let me just issue a last call. Anybody else want to chime in on any?
Claudette and Matt are both. Yeah, Claudette and then Matt have their hands raised.
Go ahead, Claudette.
Hi. I just wanted to say that in New Haven, we had started out with a task force. And with that task force, there was a large following of advocates with us as well. That went on for about over a year. And then that's where it kind of like formed into the Housing Commission. And one of the people who was very prominent in that was Karen Du Bois Walton. And she's done great work in New Haven. She has a portfolio of stock to show the work that she has done and where she's moving forward to stretch it out into the suburbs, like 20 miles out into the suburbs with affordable housing. She's very dedicated. She has a team of people behind her. I'm a big supporter, and she would be one person that would be good, I feel, to come and talk about some of her ideas. She did testify yesterday, and they drilled her quite a bit. She handled it pretty well with her responses. And I feel a lot of what she was talking about would be very useful to this meeting.
That's great. Can you send us her contact information to Representative?
Sure.
Well, why don't you send it to the whole
her,
group?
I haven't told her yet, but I'll send you her information.
Oh,
That'll
yeah,
be
by all means, just let her know that you've dropped her name into the hopper and we'll go from there.
And I know her quite well, and I can reach out to her as well too. If you...
Okay, Matt.
Thank you,
Danzer?
Richard.
To build on what Claudette was saying, I think I would find it helpful to hear from both advocates and developers who might, on the other side of things, actually use these plans to decide where there's opportunity to develop affordable housing, and sort of see what they would be looking for in these plans, what would be most useful to them in guiding their efforts. Not just hearing from people on the municipal side who might use these things, but also from folks who might use it on the ground.
Very good.
I forgot to mention that we also had a group called Room for All, and that was filled with people from the community and different organizations, including Legal Aid, who was leading it. And they came up with a lot of documentation, research, data, everything included. We still have that information that might be useful today. And I can get in touch with Legal Aid to let them know that the information we would like to share with you guys.
Claudette, say the name of the organization again, something for what for all?
Room for All.
Room for All. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. I've been scribbling furiously, and I'll try to make sense of, and by the way, I will try to create a summary of the meeting for everybody, which you can, I mean, maybe not formal minutes, but just a summary of what we talked about and the suggestions for the next meeting. Representative Lamar, that's all I have. Thank you.
I just want to make sure we take a chance to introduce some folks who will be helping administer this process. Erica Byrne and Ashley Foreman.
Yes, my apologies for overlooking that. Go ahead.
As everyone knows, the Zoom era it requires a lot of coordination and sending out emails and making sure people get the right stuff. Erica is the House Clerk for the Planning Development Committee, so you might receive some emails from her about meetings, similarly from Ashley Foreman. Ashley is actually legal counsel for the House Majority Leader, and she'll be helping out quite a bit as well. So I appreciate the help that Erica and Ashley are going to provide for us as well.
Okay, and we have
I don't know if they
Alex.
want to introduce themselves.
Yeah, Alex and Ashley, do you want to chime in?
So as Representative said, I'm Ashley Foreman. I'm the one that's been emailing you guys, so it's nice to see everybody's faces. I am one of the 2 sessional attorneys in the House Majority Leader's office. Alex is the other. So any logistical questions, concerns you guys have, we're here to help. We want this to run as smoothly as possible. And I look forward to hearing from all of you because you all seemingly are experts, in my opinion. So look forward to being part of the meetings.
Okay. Thank you both for your help. All right. Anything else for Representative Lamar?
I know if Alex and Erica want to introduce themselves as well, you'll probably be seeing a lot of them too.
Yeah, sure. I'm Erica. As Rep. Lamar said, I'm the clerk for the Planning and Development Committee. So handling kind of the administrative back end here, making sure that everything is updated on the website and that things are noticed properly so that we can make sure this process is as transparent as possible. Because I think when we talk about the need to really build trust and hear everyone out in this process, you know, having that transparency is important. So if I'm a pain about that, that's why. But very much looking forward to this process and learning from all of you.
Keep the pain coming, Erica. Thank you. Okay.
And then, yeah, like Ashley said, my name's Alex Patacini. I'm the other sessional attorney working in the Majority Leader's office. So you'll most likely see more emails from her than from me, since we're coordinating a couple other working groups. We've kind of split the work between the 2 of us, but you might occasionally see emails from me as well. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Okay. Going once. All right, I'm gonna hone my skills of looking for the yellow hand going forward. Not a skill I use a lot. Okay. All right. Well,
Very
thank you.
experienced with it, sadly, at this point, so I can be the yellow hand monitor if needed.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thank you all for your participation. I think I'm very excited. I hope you are. This is a wonderful group, a huge amount of talent and perspective, and as Representative Lamar said, every voice will be heard. And when that happens, we're going to produce a great report that's going to really have a positive impact. So thank you all. So our next meeting is St. Patrick's Day. Ha ha ha. I don't know. St. Patrick's Day, I guess, is not what it used to be, but before the pandemic. But anyway. And thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. And if you want some entertainment, go back to the Housing Committee, where I'm going to testify in a couple minutes. All right. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.